Well, I'm here with the Koster family, Travis and Karen, and Lauren and Katie, and little Tana. And over the last about 18 months,
yeah.
Is that right? You guys have just been through an amazing journey that God has had you on. And maybe Travis, just kind of tell us how God has brought you to this point where you guys have just decided we're going to be foster parents.
God used my wife to get us to this point.
Yeah.
You know, it was, I think, the whole in the gospel, when we started reading that and going over that, you felt convicted.
Well, that helped convict you. I had felt convicted before then.
Okay,
but.
yeah, you're right. And it was just one of those things we prayed about, and she was actually praying with Pastor Eileen for a long time about.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was one of those things that the Lord laid on my heart, and it was, if this is what God's calling my wife and my family to do, who am I to say no, even though it was the most uncomfortable thing in the world to open your family up to and your home up to.
Yeah.
I mean, possibly a lot of hurt, but the flip side, there's a lot of blessing in it.
A lot of joy, absolutely. And Karen, what was kind of on your heart? What made you think we should be a foster family? What made you even think that way?
Well, originally it was about a couple Decembers ago. I just kept hearing God telling me there was a baby that I needed to adopt, and it was local. And I would cry to Travis that I feel crazy. I'm going crazy. I don't hear God speaking to me, but I'm going crazy, and I don't want a baby. We don't need a baby. We have 2 girls. We don't need a baby. And that God also said, you need to talk to Pastor Eileen. Clear as day. Eileen and I didn't really have a relationship before then. So I went in and spoke to Eileen, and she said, that's so funny. We just got this house, and it's devoted to foster care. Have you ever thought about foster care? And I said, yes. No. My mom's a social worker, and my dad is, he was superintendent of prisons. I've been in the social system. I didn't want anything to do with it. But she just kept pushing me with 2 hands towards it, and after a few meetings I thought, yeah, this is what we're supposed to do. But it was really hard to convince Travis. Well, I told him, and he said no.
He said no?
I'm Dutch, so I'm a hard sell on things.
We're not going to do this. Tell me what happened one morning early in your home.
One morning, I'd been struggling with this for how long? Probably a couple
6
months. Yeah, and I can honestly say it's the first time in my life where I can relate with Jonah. I knew what I was supposed to do, but I did not want to do it. I knew what God's will was for my family. And I was doing my devotions, reading the whole of the gospel, and praying. I was like, Lord, I need something clear here, because this is by no means what I want to do for my family.
Yeah.
And I can't remember what chapter I was in. It was
the Widows and Orphans.
Right. I believe it was Widows and Orphans. They're talking about being lukewarm. And hear this crash. And I walk, so I kind of get up. It's like, okay, weird. Get up, and this picture had fallen on the ground. All the glass was broken. Frame was fine. Picture was fine. But, there was no reason. There's no possible way unless somebody walked over, because it's leaning up against for it to go forward. And, I was like, okay, if that's what it takes, then I hear you.
When you said yes, what happened then?
I filled out the form the next day.
Yeah, I got home from work, and there were forms on my desk to fill out.
All the applications.
Oh,
yes.
About this thick. Applications we had to fill out. And we just waited and waited till they could come and interview us. And then the state decided we were good enough, and we went to class. And then we waited and waited and waited until we were approved. And then in October, we had our first child come into our home. And she was awesome, and we still think about her all the time, don't we?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that process of getting trained
Yeah.
and the application process, it's a lengthy process.
It was 9 months.
What have you guys seen in the children's lives?
They connect. I don't know if she would be able to connect if she were somewhere else. And if she goes home, then at least she had love, and she grew, and she's making progress. And even the kids that we didn't have very long, our second child had a lot of problems, but Travis slept on his floor for nights holding his hands so that he wouldn't feel like he was by himself. And so when he left, he at least knew that he was loved for 2 weeks. I mean, it's the connection. They need to connect. If they don't connect when they're young, they're...
Yeah. And little Tana here, I know that she has been just a special gift to you guys.
She has.
The last 4 months, we've seen her grow so much, and she's just as cute as can be.
Slimy.
And a slimy face. That's what babies are supposed to do.
Oh, yeah.
And so we talked about the kids, but Travis, as a father, what have you seen God do in your life and your heart as you've been obedient and said, we're going to do what God's called us to do and take care of the widows and the orphans. And the foster care system, they represent orphans that are in our own community that we may not even be aware of. What's God done in your heart, Travis?
Well, I think he's definitely strengthened my relationship with him. And I see it's been an answered prayer for me because I see it in my wife and my kids.
Yeah.
I mean, in fact, I kind of joke. It was one of the worst days when God actually answered my prayer that my wife and kids go closer to him, because this was the calling he gave my family.
Yeah.
But you know what? We don't worship a person, we worship a God, and God knows what we need. And
I am more in love with my husband now than I was when we started this whole process. I was very in love with you before, but I just seen him step up and be a dad to a child that is not yours, that you don't know if is ever going to be your child, is hard. And he has done it with grace, and he has not once ignored a child or not held them or comforted them when they need it. And to open your heart like that for hurt it's very, he's such a man to me for doing that, opening his heart to being hurt and to loving this baby, even though he might not get to love her forever. And that's been, I think, the biggest blessing is our marriage is better because of this. If we never have another child in our home ever, our marriage has benefited. And we've never felt unsupported. We have our family and our friends and our church and a whole community that supports us, and not everybody does.
Yeah.
So if we can take care of a church supporting a family, I think it'd make all the difference in the world.
And we also have a support group that meets
And
monthly,
we have a support group that meets monthly, and they're amazing. Dina is in charge of our support group, and I go to her way more than she would want me to ever go to her.
And she actually works as part of in a foster
She
care
does.
system.
She works in a foster care
understands.
system. She's been a foster parent. She has a couple adoptive kids. She's run the entire gamut, and everybody there is so full of knowledge. And to talk to other families who are going through the exact same thing you are going through it's invaluable. I mean,
it's invaluable.
It's invaluable.
And so, Costers, I want to thank you guys for what you're doing, for stepping out in faith and believing the great things that God has for you.